just to make you aware that because of some aging, I guess, with the mortar between the brick outside, we're getting some seepage inside, so we have to address that. So they will be doing siding all around the annex quite soon during the fall. So if you're over in that area and see that work going on, you know what it is. But Mark will explain too, from his perspective, working with Good News Today, just how much that building means to the work and what it is doing for us to have that. Don't do that. Oh, but that's okay. but anyway, what was I saying? I think you will see some work going on over there, but Mark will tell you just how that facility is being used from the standpoint of Good News Today. And of course, many of us, if not all, are aware of how it's being used in other ways with get-togethers and so forth. Our youth room now over there for our young people, and so it has been a great blessing and obviously an outstanding investment just from the standpoint of the future for the church here and preparing for whatever may be necessary in terms of even growth if the Lord blesses us with that. So without further ado, we'll have Mark come and give us that update, and then at the conclusion of his presentation, he'll go ahead and extend the invitation since everyone is here, and then we'll have our invitation song, Chairman's leading, and then Freddie will make our announcements tonight. So we're delighted to have Mark with us. He's doing a great work with Good News Today, and you're about to hear more about that and an update. Mark.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be here with you. I enjoy the opportunity to get back to Dunlap every chance I get, and always enjoy spending time with this wonderful, wonderful congregation. No matter what else is happening in the world, there's always Good News Today. And that is more than just a tagline. That is something that we really need to make sure that we live by and understand how blessed we are each and every day. And one of the blessings I want to talk about is what we've been able to do with the program and with the facilities that we have. The building that we have with the studio. We were talking about that. I was meeting with the elders earlier today, and there is no way we could do this program if we didn't have that studio. You know, the expense of rent that we don't have to pay every month is huge. The ability to come in and get sets put in. I mean, the facility itself is incredibly flexible and useful that way. And I have to say, thank you. I really, really, really appreciate that apartment. That has been a huge, huge blessing to me. When I come here, I don't feel like I'm going somewhere and staying in a hotel. I feel like I'm coming home. And that may not sound like a lot if you haven't traveled a whole lot, but if you spend a lot of time in hotels like I have, it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. Just this last Sunday morning, I was blessed. My phone went off a couple of times. A brother who lives in the Knoxville area said, I really, really like this morning's program. Thanks, I needed that. Got a text message from sister who's the secretary of the congregation down in Pensacola, Florida. Similar thing. She said, oh, I just love that. And she wanted to know how we did the animation for the Bible Correspondence Course offer. But she said, this has just been a wonderful, wonderful program. And we get that kind of feedback all the time. Sometimes Micah gets to see it, the emails and the letters that come through here. Sometimes, you know, I'm always handing out my business card and people are contacting me directly. But it's having an effect on people in a very good way. Sunday night, I was visiting a congregation over in the far eastern part of Arkansas. And the preacher there, the congregation has supported the work, and the preacher there pulled me aside afterwards. He said, "Do you know why I'm so big on Good News Today?" You know, it's like saying sick 'em to a dog. No, I'd like to know why. He said, "Right after I became a Christian, that was one of two programs that I watched every Sunday." And he said, "I absolutely fell in love with the preaching of Jim Dearman." I didn't say he had good taste. I'm just saying that but he just was so impressed by Jim, found out where Jim went to school, and that he was actually a teacher there for a while, and said, "That's where I want to go. That's how I want to preach." It's been 17 years now. And the impact of that work 17 years ago is being felt by a congregation in East Arkansas. You don't know the good that you're doing, but occasionally we get these glimpses that really make such a difference. Only eternity is going to tell us the impact that we've been able to have. And as I go out and visit with congregations and talk about the work, one of the things that I always stress, this is not Mark's program. It wasn't Jim's program. It's the Lord's program. And it's overseen by this congregation. And that makes all the difference in the world. And as I go about doing the things that I do, preparing programs, visiting congregations, making phone calls, writing letters, answering emails, it's you that are the congregation behind this. And you're a part of everything that we do. And thinking more about the studio, you know, back in 2020, we had this thing, I don't know if you heard of it, called COVID. Kind of took the world, put it on its ear. This last year was the first time polishing the pulpit happened. There was 2 years, couldn't even meet. And the first year, the directors didn't know what they could do. Hey, we've got a studio here. And there was quite a few of the speakers that came here, utilized the studio, and allowed that work to continue. And I could go into some details behind that, but they were financially hurting, and this was a very necessary thing for them to do. And this congregation was able to step up in that way and have a huge impact. And just, if you haven't talked to some of the people that went to polishing the pulpit this year, ask them, is that a good thing? Was that a good, encouraging time? And when they give you the answer to that, know that you're part of the reason that continues to this day. And how about the International Gospel Hour? Jeff Archie. Back a couple years ago, he had the idea of branching out into television work. So, hey, we've got the studio right here. Make use of it. And he has. And now that program is in 10 different television markets. Out west, I think he's about to go into Cody, Wyoming, I believe, somewhere out there in Wyoming, that he's about to broadcast. An area where the Lord's church isn't strong, but reaching out to those people. That's a wonderful thing. And then there's another program that gets recorded in there called Make It Plain, that Eric Garner, Cameron Freeman, and Keith Ford come in and they do that program. They were joined. He's a good friend. Preaches over in Round Rock, Texas, for the West Side congregation, and I can see his face. I can't think of his name, but joined them last time they were there, and just a fantastic work that's been very, very well received. Again, recorded here in the studio. Eric Owens is who I was thinking of. So we have all this work that's going on. Some of it you guys don't see, and I think that's a shame. Part of the reason to tell you about it is so you know all the different things that are happening that this congregation has a part in. Here's a map of all the different places where Good News Today broadcasts. And some of these areas where the Lord's church isn't strong, There's one I'd like to talk about that may surprise you a little bit. Anchorage, Alaska. We're broadcasting up there, very, very well received. I was up there for the statewide lectureship back in April, and the comments that we received about the program, the impact it was making on people's lives. I wish every one of you could have heard some of the things that I heard. And the Sunday I was up there happened to be the very first week that we aired a Fabric of Family segment that Barry Gilreath did. And I had 3 people come up to me and say, wow, that was awesome. Are you guys going to run that all the time? And that kind of feedback, we get people are watching, and it's making a difference. I talked to Mike. Micah knows who Mike is. He calls on a regular basis. Always has questions. Oh, can I give copies of this to people? I want to send this. I want to share this. How do I? He's so excited by it. That man is so excited he wants to share the good news with others. And that's just one of the many different markets that we're in. Here locally, a few things. One that you know about is the broadcast that comes out of Chattanooga, WFLI, channel 53 Sunday mornings, 6:30 in the morning. And also on Bledsoe, channel 18, it's on Comcast Dish and Direct. But here's one that you may not be familiar with, WSDQ, Sunday mornings at 9:30. I apologize, gentlemen, I forgot to tell you that today. We're on the radio here, the whole program, every Sunday morning. That's being paid for by another congregation. And they said, hey, we've got airtime, we want to run a program. Can we run Good News Today? That's like saying sick 'em to a dog. Absolutely. So people around us are hearing Good News Today on Sunday mornings on the radio as well. And then WSDQ, every day we run ads on there. And what we do with that, that has a quick introduction, and then Jim's segment that he does, Sound Words. We play the audio from one of those and then have information about the congregation at the end. And that runs 3 times a day at 8:55, thereabouts, 11:55, and 4:55 on WSDQ. And since we started airing that, I've heard comments from people that have heard it. And I know some of you have heard that as well. People are listening, and it's letting them know not only about the Good News Today program, but about the congregation here as well. And that's some of the good work that can be done by the program. The different segments we have on the program, these are ones that you all are familiar with. We've got some exciting things. Fabric of Family, I talked about that. That one's been real well received. Got some good comments about that at PTP as well. Just a Minute with Chad Dolahite. He recorded those in our studio. Another one of the things that happened in the studio that he's doing for the congregation where he is in Bremen, Georgia. And we're able to utilize some of those on the program as well. Just little quick 1-minute spots, but those some of those messages are really powerful. And then this next one, we're going to change the title here. Forgot to change the slide. And what was that we decided on? Truths from the Timeless Text. Truths from the Timeless Text. Joe Guy, and Jim mentioned him just a minute ago. He was in the studio earlier this week. This was when he was recording. We've, I say we, taking credit for it, recreated Tom Holland's Pastime Porch, one of the iconic Good News Today sets. And that's Joe's utilizing that for his segment. And if we have the computer audio turned on by chance. And I'll need the next slide. As you can tell, we rehearsed this ahead of time. Okay. This is not edited. This is just the raw footage, so.
How are you? Thanks for stopping by. You know, Stephanie often tells me that my mind is full of useless knowledge. Just because I can tell you the year the Roman Empire fell in 476, or the dates of the Battle of Chickamauga, September 18th through the 20th, or the year McMinn County was formed, 1819, and all kinds of other random historical facts, but I struggle to remember our wedding anniversary on June 24th, or is it June 26th? Oh well. But I admit she has a point. It's easy to let other things fill our minds, even good, interesting things like random historical facts. But what we fail to do often is to fill our minds with things that are truly and eternally important. Paul tells the Philippians in chapter 4, verse 8, to think on important things, to fill their minds with things that are pure and honest and just and lovely and of good reputation, things of virtue, things we should be thankful for. Can you give scripture for God's plan of salvation? Can you answer the question of why that you're a Christian, like Peter refers to in 1 Peter 3, verse 15? Compared to your time on social media or thinking about a hobby or watching a TV program, how often do you pray? How often do you read your Bible? How often do you think on things that can and will affect your eternal life? Because compared to that, all other knowledge and anything else that we fill our minds with is truly useless. Let us be mindful of God's presence, His gift of life, and His salvation. Let's trust the timeless text and fill our minds with godly things, so there's no room for useless and damaging, sinful thoughts to cloud our judgments and lead us astray. I'm Joe Guy. Thank you for visiting.
He is good. When we first started talking about utilizing Joe, I got he said, well, let me do a sample for you. And he was just sitting by his fireplace. And his presence on television is really stood out in that. You know, it was just the fireplace at his house was all he had in the background and using his cell phone. And it's like, oh, I love that. And I could tell this was going to be good. So we're so thankful to have Joe on board and to work with us. And you know, as we keep working with the program, it's you know, always getting a little further, doing things a little bit different. One of the things that kind of sets Good News Today apart is it doesn't get stale. You know, you don't see just one face week after week after week. And Brother James Watkins, I actually visited with him the day that he recorded his last episodes of Preaching the Gospel. And during the conversation, you know, hey, we'd really love to have you come do some more. And you know what he said? He said, I've already preached everything I know. And he felt like he was getting stale. And it's kind of hard to imagine a man of that great talent that I never thought that he was stale in the least. But the program that we have, because of the format, will never be stale. Always something new, always something, a little different perspective. And I hope and pray that it has the effect that we desire. So we showed the map with the red spots where we broadcast on television. Where else can people watch? The apps. Those we have, you know, there's a few thousand people watching every month, watching on the apps, be that their phone, their tablet, their Roku or Apple TV. We have apps for all of those. And, you know, I was talking with our media broker, the man who actually works with us with the TV stations, gets all the contracts, you know, and we were looking and talking about some of the smaller markets that we have. And, you know, that we have 3,000 to 4,000 viewers in some of these smaller markets. And, television numbers, you hear, millions of the, not a local television. 4,000 people in the Columbus, Mississippi market, you're doing pretty good. There's nearly as many people watching the TV program as sitting in church buildings. In New Orleans, more people watch the program than are sitting in congregations of Churches of Christ. We have about 11,000 viewers, and there's about 1,000 members of the church in the broadcast area. Tell me we're not having an impact. We're also on YouTube. Every week the program gets launched there, and we have viewers from overseas are coming across it there. On Facebook, every day a different segment drops on the Facebook page. If you're on Facebook and you haven't liked us yet, and where you get to see those on a regular basis, I'd encourage you to do so. As you see those segments, that would be a good one for me to share with such and such a person. And that can be more impactful than you might think. Back several months ago, one of the Fabric of Family segments that was recorded, talking about taking care of your parents in their later years. Anybody who's been through that process before knows how difficult of a time that is. And Barry did a wonderful, wonderful job on that subject. And right after I saw the segment, that was good. And I just happened to get a message from a friend in Texas that her dad had to go in the hospital, her mother into a nursing home, just like that. She was struggling. So, have I got something to share with you? She wrote me back the next day. She said, you would not imagine how much I needed that. Thank you. And that's not me. I'm not saying that bragging. I'm just saying there's power in these messages. That the proper message at the right time, and somebody's dealing with an issue, and we've got all sorts of material available. And Facebook, there's a new one coming every single day of the week, material that's there. Special thing happens on Saturdays with that. Tom Holland's Pastime Porch, those segments run on Saturdays. And back a few months ago, we got some old archived materials of Good News Today from years gone by that had never been digitized, wasn't available on the computer. We're able to get some of those digitized, and there's episodes that are there. You can also get to them on the apps that people literally have not seen in years. Nobody has. They've been sitting on a shelf. So every day on the apps, a different one of those gets released, and every Saturday on Facebook, one gets released. So if you enjoy Tom Holland, you're in for an absolute treat. Website has the same material that's available on the Roku, the Apple TV, and the apps. Those all feed from the same database, and the same material is available there. So whatever works for you to watch the material, you can get to it from there. We also have podcasts available. And this is one of those things that I guess I'm showing my age, because you would not believe my kids are all about podcasts. They're either recording them or listening to them or sharing them or discussing them. That this is a media that is very, very well used, and one that frankly is incredibly easy for us to get involved in. We've got our podcast that comes of the program every week. Jim's Sound Word segments are available as a podcast. And then every day of the week, we release a different devotional time that's available as a podcast as well. So if you like to get in the Word of God for just 10 minutes in the morning, or any time of the day that works for you, those are available. Every single day you can subscribe to that podcast. And if you're like me, I really don't like subscribing to a podcast But what I do when I'm in the bathroom getting ready in the morning, I just say, Alexa, play the latest episode of the Good News Today Daily Devotional Time podcast. And that little speaker just fires right up, and I can hear it. Or if you're an Apple person, you can tell Siri the same thing. Or if you have a Google Home, you can say, okay, Google, do that. Available on all of those, anytime you'd like. Or you can just tell it to keep playing podcasts, and you can listen one after the other, as some people do. It's a great way to get the material. We have a channel on truth.fm, which is another one of those outlets, another way that people run into us and listen to us all the time. That's available worldwide. That's a website, www.truth.fm, and they have an app as well if you're interested in that. They also rebroadcast Christian radio stations from members of the Lord's Church. Gospel Radio Network, we've been on there as well. And on GBN, we're on 11 times a week. Tomorrow, we're going to record episode number 1493. So we're getting close to 1,500. The numbers just keep climbing. And that's Jim did the same thing I did as program director at GBN, always needing material. And to have 1,500 episodes of a program, it really fills a lot of blocks in the schedule. And this material, it continues to be seen by people through GBN. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful way for people to come across the material and enjoy that. The podcasts, as I mentioned, are available wherever you get your podcast. And if you would do me this favor, if there's some place that you like to get podcasts from, if you don't find us there, let me know. Because the way those services work, sometimes they feed automatically, and sometimes you have to say, oh, here I am, and we can get it out to that podcast provider. So if you have problems with it, just let me know about that. How about the correspondence courses? I don't do this at places like that. How many people are involved with the Bible correspondence courses? Grading those, working with those. Thank you so very much. You all make a huge difference. So many people I hear that when we're talking about the program, how do you follow up? It's like, hey, I've got a whole team of folks doing Bible correspondence courses. Take care of it. Thank you all so very much. It means the world and makes the program that much more effective. And we offer that several times during the program. And I apologize. Micah's sitting over there, and I hadn't updated these numbers lately. We had, last time, I just put 1,200 plus students, 28 states, 4 foreign countries, and close enough for government work. We're in the ballpark. If anything, those numbers have gone up. And one thing that I wish we had is a way of tracking the online Bible correspondence courses. People who want to take it online, those get sent to IBTM, International Bible Teaching Ministries, which is a wonderful, wonderful organization. Ron Gilbert works with them, and now Barry Gilreath, who does the Fabric of Family program, that's his day job, working with IBTM. And he was literally in Africa just a little while ago, working with them. But all of our online requests go to IBTM, and they grade them and put them through their system. And they're very, very well taken care of. Kind of a little insider information. My brother-in-law actually did the programming that runs their Bible correspondence courses. And I know he's sound, and I know Ron's sound, and Barry's sound, so that the people are in good hands. The only problem is we lose the statistics, so we don't know how many people, but we know that they're taken good care of going through IBTM. We've been growing. We added back last year in March, Bluefield, West Virginia. Back in April of last year, Atlanta, Georgia. In August, Springfield, Missouri. I was just blessed to be there earlier this month. Visited with the congregation in Branson that fully funds that broadcast there, and gave them a presentation on the work. They were very, very pleased, very excited to hear about the work. And before we left the church building, my phone started ringing. It was a preacher in Tulsa who happened to be watching the online stream of the report and said, "Hey, can we talk about getting out here next year?" So that's one of those visits that can pay off for us down the road, for sure. Jackson, Tennessee, we added them a little less than a year ago, and a week ago tonight I was there visiting with some of the elders from the North Jackson congregation, and hopefully some good things are going to happen there here in the next week or so. The Evangelism Fund, trying to get us into new markets, trying to grow the work. Sometimes times become available and they go away very quickly. There's one opportunity that we've been looking at and wanting to take advantage of in Europe. We'll talk about that here in just a moment, but that's one that I'm thinking of right now that allows us, this Evangelism Fund, funds that are come in and are we're able to use for whatever market we need them in, helps us reach some of these mission fields. And Faith World TV is one that we're talking about here. This station, it's on 2 different satellite systems in Europe. And I have since found out, since I tried to draw this on the computer, that this is not as big as I thought. It's actually right here basically covering Nigeria. So please forgive the size of that circle there. But it does cover all of Europe. And it's on the Sky TV system there. If you've ever been to Britain, Great Britain there, that's like their equivalent to DirecTV. And Faith World TV actually gets into 43 million homes. Allow that to sink in. 43 million homes. And cable systems in Nigeria and a little bit outside there. Oh, excuse me, the 75 million homes that was amended because of the other satellite system. So 75 million homes. And most of the viewers of this network actually happen to be Africans. Even in Europe, it's the Africans that watch this. And why is that significant? Well, next month, Troy Spradlin, who works with us on the program, is actually going to Italy to visit with a missionary that their congregation supports over there in Italy. And who makes up the congregation there in Italy? It's about 90% folks from Africa. The Europeans are a tough mission field. But where's the church growing in Europe? Among the Africans. And that's who this station targets. So I'm thinking this is a good opportunity. And 75 million homes means a potential audience. And we're forgive the term spitballing here. Because if you look at Europe, the average number of people per household is 1.8. That's for Europeans. Do you know what it is in Nigeria, the size of the average household? 8. So what multiplier do I use? We'll go with a 1.8 and we'll say 136 million. At least. So this is reaching some folks. And we got that audience of the Africans living in Europe. And they've just made time available on this network. And you know what they're asking for it? $150 a week. Potential audience, $1 per million potential audience. Unbelievable. And this, we'll need to raise the funds before we can pull the trigger on that. And they had some airtime available, and some of that's gone. So this is an opportunity. If we don't take advantage of it fairly soon, we may miss it. But I really, really want to go here. If you're interested in helping out with that, just let me know, or let one of the elders know, and we can definitely get you hooked up. Here's another one I'm really excited about: the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And Channel 21, which is a station, full power station, everybody gets it. They've got some time available, 6 o'clock in the morning. And that reaches a potential audience there in Dallas-Fort Worth of 7.5 million souls. That's bigger than Atlanta. That's bigger than Nashville. In fact, if you were to look at that and consider just the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, if that were carved out and became a state, it would be the 13th largest state in the country. More people in the Metroplex than in the state of Kentucky. So there's a lot of people, $160 a week, and Lord willing, here in the next little while, be visiting with some more congregations in that area, getting on in that market. And you know, I only lived there for 11 years and know quite a few people, so I'm excited about the chance to visit there with some folks as well. Why Good News Today? You know, there's several different programs on in the Brotherhood. What makes Good News Today special? Well, number one, we're under the oversight of an eldership, not a board of directors. And some programs just have a board of directors, and they're not overseen by elders. I am thankful for my elders. They are involved in this work. This afternoon, I don't know how long we met. Talk on the phone, talking about the program, how are we doing this, how are we doing that. We talk about some of the segments, we talk about some of the finances, some of the plans, some of the markets. The eldership isn't an eldership in name only. These men oversee the work the way it should be done. And I'm incredibly thankful for that. And you should be as well. Another reason why Good News Today, we're financially transparent. You can look at the newsletter. There's some newsletters here if you're interested. We've got some on the back table in the foyer as well. Pick one up, and the financial information is right in there. Every newsletter. I know it drives Micah crazy to put it in there every time, but it's there so people know. We're not hiding anything. What congregation is supporting? Right there. How much money is coming in? Right there. What are we spending on? Right there. That transparency makes us accountable to everyone, not just the elders here, but everybody who supports. And this is something I talk about other places that is a work of this congregation. Everybody who raised their hand, that's working on the Bible correspondence courses, that works in the studio recording, thank you very much, who works building things in the studio, who's opening mail, who's answering emails, who's working on technical issues, who've been recording. There's so many things that people in this congregation have done. One of the comments I continually get, people are like, wow, how big is that Dunlap congregation? As much involvement as there is in this work, people thinking this is a 400 or 500 member congregation. Yeah, you just keep thinking that. No, this is not a big congregation, but it's a faithful congregation filled with workers. And this is one of your works. Why Good News Today? Because we work in cooperation with other works in the Brotherhood. With GBN recording programs for them, with House to House recording things with them, with the International Gospel Hour recording things with them, with the Bremen congregation recording things with them. We've got the resources here. They've already been paid for. Let's put them to work for the Lord's kingdom. When I first met with the elders, it's been several years ago. It was Tony and Al at that time. And we talked. And one of their marching orders to me, day one, the studio's been built, let's use it. Put it to good use. And I think we have been able to do that and utilize it for God's glory and cooperate with other works. You know, International Gospel Hour, Jeff couldn't be doing what he's doing on television without what we have here at Dunlap. That's an important part of that work now. And the work that Eric and Key and Cameron are doing, they couldn't do it without having the resources here. So there's so many other things that are being affected because of what you all do. And another reason why Good News Today is so special, because it's not about any single personality. It's a cooperative effort. So many different people that are involved, even in front of the camera. And I appreciate that so very much. I really do. You know, I've worked in television now for going on 19 years. And when I was behind the camera and doing that work for so many of those years, it was a little hard, you know, to walk and people to associate your face with the program because they never see you on camera. You're always the guy behind the scenes. But now that doing a little bit in front of the camera, people are like, oh, I recognize you, but it's not all about me. It's a way of getting me in the door to be able to tell people about the program. And that, I think, has been a wonderful thing. Polishing the pulpit, we were blessed to have several of the speakers, and Cody was there, and Troy was there, and the number of people who came up and made comments let us know how very important the work has been to them. What can I do to help? Pray for the work. Pray for the work. You know, I'd love to say that it's all, you know, marshmallows and roses all the time. There's some tough times, some difficulties from time to time. Prayers avail much. And to have a congregation of faithful people praying, please, please don't forget us. And a special prayer for those people taking those correspondence courses, that those courses will lead people to obey the gospel, that they truly will be effective in the Lord's work. Number two, be ready for viewers to become visitors. So much of television work is getting people interested in the gospel and inviting them to come visit. And when they walk in the door, how do we treat them? If you treat them half as good as you treat me, they're never going to want to leave. You're stuck with me. But that friendliness is so very important. Something I like to stress everywhere with congregations to support the work. Utilize the program in your personal evangelism as you're talking to people and reaching out to them. If you haven't signed up for our weekly email, there's a sign-up sheet back on the table in the foyer on a clipboard. Please do that. Every Friday morning, you get an email letting you know what's going to be on this week's program. And then the second section of that email talks about how to use the program in evangelism. How did this come about? Well, I guess it was about 2.5 years ago. I was visiting a congregation, and a sister, she caught me after I did the presentation. She said, I got a bone to pick with you. Okay. And that's never a good way to start a conversation. I said, what's that? And honestly, I've forgotten what we talked about that week, but she said, if I would have known that's what you were talking about, I could have told my neighbor who we were talking about that very thing that week and had her watch the program. It would have cleared everything up for her. Well, you say something like that to me, and I'm not going to let that happen again. Thus, the email blast. Once a week, this is what's coming up on the program. Here's some ideas how you can use it evangelistically. And in the bottom section, let you know some things going on about the program. But it's just one email a week. That's all you're going to get. No spam, nothing else, to let you know. And if nothing else, you get that reminder every week. How can I be evangelistic? How can I share the gospel? And that's a reminder I think we can all use. Help us reach other congregations. There's people that I know, there's people I don't know. That as you go places and you visit with people, let them know about the program. This is our congregation's program. And you say, hey, haven't heard about it. Would you like to hear about it? I know a guy who would love to come talk to you about it. That's where I go and that's what I do. This year has probably been more visits than I have done in a long time. The first part of the year, I'll admit, I got chastised a little bit by the elders because I was on the road too much. But when somebody says, hey, can you come give a report? I'm going to go. I'm going to go. I'm going to go. And it just happened to be week after week after week after week after week. But that's what I do. And now it's coming a time, I've had a little time off in the summer. It's that time of the year, time to make visits again. I got some openings in November, December. So if you know some place for me to go, let me know. Let one of the elders know. Let Micah know. And we'll get that on the calendar. If by chance you're interested in talking about the program, maybe in front of a congregation, you say, hey, I could do that. Talk about the program. Let congregations know about it. Come talk to me. Or you can talk to one of the elders and say, hey, I think I'd like to do that. We can get you the PowerPoint presentation, get you all the information you need, and see if we can't make that happen. But reaching out and letting people know about the program is an important part. How to stay in touch? Facebook, you get the daily videos and the weekly email blast. Different ways that you can stay in touch with us. And again, any questions that you have, feel free to ask at any point in time. And like I said, the elders here are involved in the program, and they know what's going on. And if they don't know what's going on, guess what happens? My little phone on my side goes ding-a-ling-a-ling, and they're going to find out. That's the kind of men we have leading this congregation. Well, I hope and pray this has been informational and encouraging to you as we talk about the work and the work that this congregation is doing. Why is it important? What's the use of doing this? Because, face it, there's a lot of error being taught in the world. Just last Sunday, congregation I was visiting, a comment was made about, you can't trust TV evangelists. And I said, oh, is he taking a swipe at me? That was last Wednesday. And Caleb Colley was actually the one doing it. He's a friend of mine. And I was giving him a little grief about that afterwards. But there's a lot of false teaching that goes on in the world. The book of 1 John, chapter 4, begins with this warning. Beloved, John's writing to Christians, not to elders, not to preachers, but to the beloved. That's you and me. That's everybody. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. They're out there. And it's our job to set the record straight. It's our job to do what we can to share the great gospel message with others. There's many false teachers out there. And John goes on to explain the situation in his day with the Gnostics, and if we had a sermon hour available to us, we could go into detail there. But suffice it to say, the Gnostics, the big thing they had, they thought things that were spiritual and things that were physical just couldn't mix at all, like oil and water. And he said, there's a test you can do as you're looking for these false teachers. Everyone who confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is of God. He passes the test. He who denies that Jesus Christ came in the flesh is not of God. That's a very, very simple test to find a Gnostic. That was the error he was dealing with in his day. And part of preaching is making it simple so that people can understand it. So people can realize and rationalize and see for themselves what's right. And that's what we try to do with the program, to set the record straight. And I hope and pray that you do that, because it's your responsibility to test everything you hear. Acts 17:11, be like the Bereans and search the scriptures to see if these things are so. Because that false teaching is there. And they're like wolves in sheep's clothing. You got to protect yourself. And if you're here this evening and you've never become a child of God, you've never put on your Lord in a believer's baptism, we'd like to make that opportunity available for you. If you've heard the gospel message, faith comes by hearing, hearing by the word of God, Romans 10:17. Believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, Hebrews 11:6 and John 3:16. Willing to repent of your sins, Acts 2:38, confess his name before men, Romans 10:9 and 10, and be buried in the watery grave of baptism. We can do that for you this very day, Acts 2:38, Acts 22:16. Or if you're here tonight as a child of God, and you look at your life and you say, I haven't been living like I should. Make it right. Your brothers and sisters here would love to pray with you and for you that you may be forgiven and be headed back toward heaven. If you have any doubt in your minds, make it right tonight. Just come forward now while together we stand and we sing.
255. I am resolved no longer.